Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. In honor of Thanksgiving, I am talking about an episode from season 8, The Waiting, when Olivia and John find out that John Boy has been found after his plane crash during the war, and he is in a hospital in Alexandria in a coma, and it is coming on Thanksgiving, so I thought that this might be a good episode to talk about as we go into our own Thanksgiving celebrations. John Boy has made the front page of the local newspaper, and Ike brings it out to show the Waltons, thinking that perhaps John Boy might also like a copy of it for his own when he is well enough to read the article. When John and Olivia arrive at the hospital in Alexandria, you might recognize this building. It was frequently used whenever we needed an official-looking building on the Waltons. It was one of the sets on Midwest Street on the Warner Brothers lot. It was used for Boatwright University, for Mary Ellen's nursing school, when the Waltons went to Jefferson County to the courthouse. So many times this building was used, and they would simply change the signage, do a little bit of change with the foliage, and there we go, a new location. When John and Olivia are finally able to locate John Boy's room, there's a sign there that says no visitors. They're not sure if that applies to them, but then a nurse exits the room, and she is rather abrupt with them and says that means no visitors, and you're going to have to go over there and wait, and I'll see if I can find the doctor. They wait quite some time before the doctor arrives and finally basically says that they can visit John Boy soon, but not yet. When they are allowed into John Boy's room, we get our first view of the new John Boy. I know a lot of you have talked about this. The whole question of bringing John Boy back. John Boy was the viewpoint from which the entire series was told. So when Earl Hamner created the series, it was meant to be told from the perspective of, in a way, his life as a young man talking about his family. So that was the perspective. And I think that Richard left after 5 years of his contract. That was, he had a 5-year contract. He honored that. And then he moved on to other projects. And the show obviously continued for a number of seasons without John Boy. We made reference to hearing from him in New York, and Richard came back and made an occasional appearance. And then this is strictly my opinion. I feel like they felt that it would add to the show to have the character of John Boy back. So they set about recasting. What was involved in that process, I don't know. But ultimately, it was determined to hire Robert Wightman to play the new John Boy. So this is our first introduction to him lying in a hospital bed with his head wrapped up in a coma. You might also recognize the roommate in John Boy's room when this young soldier is brought into the room. It was played by actor Morgan Stevens, who went on to play Paul Northridge, who ultimately married Erin. When John and Olivia feel that John Boy is being ignored, that his case is not being really supervised, no one's been in to check on John Boy, John gets quite upset with the doctor and goes on a bit of a rant with him. And in watching this scene, it reminded me of Ralph in real life and how passionate Ralph was about the things that were important to him and how he did not back down from speaking his mind and defending his position when he felt something was important. And quite often, most of the time, it was on behalf of someone else or someone's else, a group or people that he felt deserved to be defended or helped in some way. John and Olivia spend some time with John Boy, and then John needs to go back to go to work, and Olivia is going to stay and be with John Boy because she feels that that is the best thing she can do and the best way that she can help him recover. Back home, Rose and her grandchildren, Serena and Jeffrey, are there, and Rose is doing her best to take the place, not take the place of Olivia, but be there as what the family needs to take care of the house, help the children in any way. Most of us are grown now, so it isn't really so much taking care of us, but being there to take care of the house and be that support system in whatever way is needed. And she feels Thanksgiving's coming, and she wants to create a Thanksgiving so that it will cheer the family up. Everybody is down about what's going to happen with John Boy, how he's doing. Is he going to recover? We're all worried. And Rose feels that trying to create a real Walton Thanksgiving will raise everybody's spirits. But none of us are really on board with that. We're all sort of, oh, let's skip it this year. Let's not bother. I'm not feeling very festive or very thankful. And poor Rose is finding it harder and harder to keep her own enthusiasm and be the cheerleader in the face of all this opposition that she's getting. The character of Mrs. Denman is present in this episode. She was the one who came to tell them that John Boy had been found, and Olivia ends up staying with her. She lost her own son in the war, and she is doing everything she can to help other families be reunited with their sons or daughters, or to find out what happened to them so that other parents can at least know and have closure, or whatever it is that can be of help to them during these difficult times. It's a beautiful scene where they talk about the recognition that the world will never be the same. And clearly it wasn't and hasn't been. That was a defining turning point in this country, that war, and the outcome of that war and what's happened since. It was definitely, things have been different. It was very different for the family after that. All the boys went away to war or were involved in the war. So for the Waltons, things were never the same, and for the country. In trying to find a way to reach John Boy, Olivia reads to him from his own book. And although he is not visibly showing that he can hear it, the character of Sam in the other room is indeed, he says, well, I can hear it and I appreciate it. So Olivia feels for this young man who doesn't have any family and is going to be on his own for Thanksgiving, and keeps trying to talk Mrs. Denman into spending time with Sam and sharing it with him. She's not ready. She said she just keeps remembering her own son, who she will never spend Thanksgiving with again. So a lot of interesting points are raised about Thanksgiving and about being thankful and the times when perhaps we don't feel thankful. But there are always things, I think, that we are thankful for. And to focus on what is positive and what we are grateful for is far more morale boosting than dwelling on the things that we don't have. And I think that that's what Olivia is trying to express to Mrs. Denman. She's just at this moment grateful and thankful that John Boy's been found and that she can be with him. He's still breathing. And Rose, in trying to create Thanksgiving for the family, she finally gets really upset and breaks down, feeling that she's trying so hard and nobody appreciates it. And that's a little bit of a wake up for the family to realize how hard Rose is trying and that we're just making it difficult and we don't have to. And so the family then, all the rest of the Waltons, get on board and decide that yes, we should create Thanksgiving. And so they do. Finally, there's a bit of a breakthrough, and as Olivia speaks with Sam, she hears John Boy say mama, and her world changes. For Thanksgiving, John surprises Olivia by coming back down to spend it with her. She has arranged to have a tray. Actually, Mrs. Denman has arranged to have a tray of from the cafeteria with the best that they can do for a turkey dinner, and it is in John Boy's room, and she and John are going to share that. Where back home, Rose has cooked a turkey and all the trimmings, and the rest of the family is gathering to say thanks and to celebrate. Interesting in this episode, there is one point where I am sitting at the head of the table in Daddy's chair, and in this case, Jason sits there and is going to carve the turkey. In the final heartwarming scene, as John and Olivia hold hands by John Boy's bed and say grace and say thanks for Thanksgiving, John Boy's hand moves to join with theirs. And they realize that he can indeed hear them and recognize they're there, and that he is going to come back to them. So, very touching moment. And whatever you feel about the new John Boy, as a character, it was a beautiful moment. And it was yet another different sort of a Thanksgiving episode for the Waltons. But I wish you and your family the very warmest of holidays, a lovely Thanksgiving, and let's all give thanks for what we do have, for family, for friends, and all that's good in our lives, and what we can create good for the future. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I will be back with more Behind the Scenes and more Ask Judy. Happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for watching.